Tyreek Hill is officially a Miami Dolphin, and now the world wants to know, what do we do with the players on this roster in Dynasty? Let's find out. What is up, everybody? Nate Liss back with you once again to talk all things Dynasty, but this week I want to focus specifically on this Miami Dolphins situation as it pertains to our rosters in 2022. But before we do, let's get some business out of the way first. I want to say thank you to all of the subscribers who continue to tune in each and every week as I roll out more and more of these videos. I've got some awesome ideas in the works that I will be deploying as soon as next week. So to my viewers who haven't subscribed yet, if you've gained any value from the content that I have dropped, then do me a favor and hit the like button and definitely click that subscribe button for me as well, because you do not want to miss my new YouTube Shorts Dynasty Trade Series that is coming your way. Each and every week, I'll be breaking down multiple trades in under a minute that are submitted to me by my patron group. So if you would like to be one of the people and have your trade broken down in front of my audience, then come visit me over at Patreon at patreon.com/I'm outraged and sign up today. Now, how about this Tyreek Hill news, huh? I just have to be honest with you guys. This deal is a shocker to me personally. The idea that a 28-year-old wide receiver whose game is predicated around speed and is one of the league's most volatile fantasy producers just netted 2 top 50 2022 draft picks, a 4th round pick in this year's draft, a 4th next year, and an additional future 6th feels like solid draft capital to me. I mean, think about this. With the weight of this massive Patrick Mahomes contract, Kansas City was going to then have to pay Tyreek Hill the largest wide receiver contract of all time. And just a few days ago, Davante Adams set that record, and then here we are today, Tyreek Hill just broke it. But is he worth the price tag? I can say with some certainty right now that in this offense, the way that it will function, if it's anything like San Francisco last season with Mike McDaniel, then the answer is probably no. Because last season, in his first year as offensive coordinator, Mike McDaniel's offensive play calling ranked a star-studded 49ers offense top 5 in rush attempts, but just number 29 in total pass attempts. So you've got to ask yourself, is Tua Tagovailoa an actual upgrade over Jimmy Garoppolo? Because if you dig deep enough, I think you will struggle to find one definitive area where Tua was significantly better than Jimmy G. I mean, the only area that truly stands out to me is the fact that Jimmy Garoppolo ranked number 29 in deep ball completion percentage, while Tua Tagovailoa actually ranked number 1 overall. That's actually surprising, and here's why. Because last season, Tua took very few deep shots. In fact, his 28 deep ball attempts ranked him number 30 in the league last year, but this is a twofold story. Number 1, Tua only played 13 games in 2021, so it's understandable that the raw numbers would look lower. And number 2, Tua actually had the 3rd least time to throw last season per next-gen stats. Put that up on the screen, will you? Look at it. Will you just look at it?
You know, when I see a car like this, first thing I do is I say, would you look at this?
As you can imagine, when you have no time to throw because your offensive line is terrible, it gives almost no chance for a deep route to even develop. So the idea that Tua was able to still manage the league's best deep ball completion percentage is a pretty impressive stat of its own, and it should make your pants tight. Makes mine tight. So to me, right off the bat, before even dissecting this offense like a frog in high school PE class, biology? Miami needs to address the league's worst offensive line in 2021. And I actually think they have so far. By adding stud offensive tackle Teron Armstead, who does have an injury history but was a top-ranked free agent this offseason, as well as Connor Williams, an offensive guard from Dallas who was unfortunately the league's most penalized lineman last season, but helped shore up a massive need nonetheless. This is what we needed to see. Mike McDaniel has immediately stepped in and made a huge impact in an area that has crippled, not literally, so many young quarterbacks in the past. I honestly love what they've done. There's little chance this offensive line finishes anywhere near dead last in 2022, and there's still room for more potential help in the NFL draft this season. So let's throw Miami's remaining 2022 draft capital up on the screen for everybody. As you can see, they still have 5 picks, none of which are in the top 100, but they still have a third, and they have a fourth, as well as maybe Devontae Parker. This might give them some wiggle room to make a play to move up further for another piece to bolster this offensive line. Additionally, though, Mike McDaniel has revamped his backfield as well, adding immense speed and pass-catching ability to a unit that last season was really devoid of any marquee playmakers. This is where Chase Edmonds and Raheem Mostert actually come into play. Raheem Mostert, a player McDaniel is familiar with from his time in San Francisco, is a tough runner, but he's often injured and will likely fill a backup role in this new Miami offense. In fact, he holds very little fantasy relevance, in my opinion, week to week outside of this becoming a total timeshare, which seems less likely based on the contract size, but a backup runner is always just an injury away from relevance. Then, of course, next we have Chase Edmonds, who just signed a 2-year, $12.6 million deal with the Dolphins. At this point, Edmonds is the man in Miami, and based on this team's remaining draft capital, the odds of a premier runner challenging him through the draft seem unrealistic at best. So it's wheels up for Edmonds, who's now playing for an OC that just found numerous ways to get the ball in playmakers' hands in space. And this is one thing Edmonds does well after finishing as the RB11 in yards per touch in 2021. His biggest hurdle, though, may be passing game usage. This was an area that he was heavily involved with over the last 2 seasons in Arizona, but if this past season in San Francisco is any indication of what's to come, things may get interesting. While offensive coordinator in San Francisco, Mike McDaniel actually had one of the league's bottom 10 offenses in targeting runners out of the backfield. The 49ers' 99 backfield targets landed them 47 targets short of the league's most pass-happy backfield, Atlanta. What's interesting, though, is that despite the bottom 10 total of targets, 20% of their total passing targets as a team actually went to the backfield, which ranked them inside the top 13 in the NFL. So my suspicion is that this may have had more to do with the personnel in McDaniel's backfield than his willingness to actually call these plays. So there is again a great chance that Chase Edmonds eats in PPR leagues while in Miami. But let's get to these pass catchers for a minute. I know everybody wants to love Mike Gesicki because he's the best option at tight end in Miami and he's uber athletic, but he is not George Kittle. Again, one important factor for McDaniel is dynamism in his playmakers, and Gesicki is certainly athletic enough to provide this option, but I fear that some target volatility could be headed his direction. I just can't see a scenario where, short of an injury, his 111 targets from 2021 comes back to him in 2022. If McDaniel, with a similar quarterback, better offensive line, and equally talented pass catchers ranked 29th in pass attempts last year, there's just no way that Gesicki finds that level of volume again in Miami this year. What I do expect is more splash plays out of him, though, as his tight end 6 average depth of target and top 3 tight end air yards are utilized more frequently, as well as a lot more room to operate underneath with Hill and Waddle stretching defenses. If George Kittle saw just 94 targets in San Francisco's offense last season, then my best guess is that Gesicki is going to hover somewhere between an 80 and 90 target range in 2022. Now, the really juicy part here is Jaylen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Let's be honest, it's the only reason you're here right now. So let me open my debate with this point about Tyreek Hill, because I'm honestly not sure what people should expect from Tyreek Hill in 2022. This Miami offense will without question throw less than Kansas City did last year. In fact, in 2021, San Francisco had 140 less pass attempts with all those weapons. Let that sink in for a minute. Then there's Tyreek's 159 targets from 2021. That was already top 7 in the league last season as the number 1 option at the position. The odds that he betters this number probably does not exist in Miami. Next, we have to factor in his volatility. Even with the league's best quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, last season, in 59% of Tyreek Hill's games, he finished as the wide receiver 25 or worse. In fact, 8 of those same 10 games, he was the wide receiver 42 or worse. So if your belief is that in a throttled passing game with zero chemistry and a quarterback that is not Patrick Mahomes, that things will actually get better and not worse, you should probably come back and join us here on Earth.
Hi, I'm Earth. Have we met?
Look, even our friends over at Keep Trade Cut have already started aggregating the data of the dynasty value of Tyreek Hill versus Jaylen Waddle. But even Jaylen Waddle will likely take a step back in total targets after finishing as a top 10 option in 2022. Yet where he will make up for it is with the explosive deep plays that were missing from his game in 2021. Because Waddle possesses true 4.3 speed, and this was evident during his time in Alabama. It's the reason he averaged 20.0 yards per reception in college, which landed him in the 93rd percentile. So because Tua had no time to throw in 2021, Waddle was forced as the team's only option to run an average depth of target in the low sixes. I mean, he was the wide receiver 103 in ADOT, for God's sakes. This is like driving the speed limit in a school zone with a Ferrari. You want to go faster, but you just can't. So the upside for Waddle was huge prior to the Tyreek addition. But I keep seeing people say that Tyreek's signing is good for Waddle, as if the player we saw in 2021, who had a hilariously low ADOT, is actually the player that the Dolphins drafted. He's not. In fact, that's what makes the Hill deal so odd to me. He's actually a redundant asset to Waddle. Short of proven production in the NFL, I see very little actual difference between these two players. But this Hill contract is truly bothersome from a dynasty standpoint. I'm not sure both of these players can eat on a week-to-week basis. I mean, even T. Higgins and Jamar Chase traded off performances much of the year. So if you're looking at the end of the year fantasy points per game, sure, Tyreek Hill averaged 17.4, but just remember more than half of those games he was outside the top 25, which is roughly a 14-point fantasy point per game zone. So do I love Jaylen Waddle in Dynasty? Yes, because he's young and in an ascending offense. But with Tyreek Hill's contract in the way over the next 4 seasons, I think Waddle realistically will find himself moving from a top 5 option in some rankers' eyes to a spot somewhere outside the top 12. And to be quite honest with you, I think it's justified.